there. Welcome again to another edition of the Maglight Podcast. And I am really thrilled to have on the show a gentleman that has a long history with Maglight and support for law enforcement, which, of course, Maglight is all about as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Floyd, he's Executive Director of Citizens Behind the Badge. Hello, Craig.
Great to be with you, Lou.
Good to have you here. So tell me all about the organization.
Well, we just started, relatively speaking, 2022 was our second year anniversary. So we're now in our third year with Citizens Behind the Badge. I was the founding CEO of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, retired in 2018 after we finished our National Law Enforcement Museum project. That opened. I retired, was having a great time in retirement, decided, you know what? Ever since May 2020, when George Floyd died, everybody's hating all of a sudden on police. They're like despised. There were all these lies out there about them in the media. And I said, you know what? I know more about law enforcement than probably any citizen in this country. I'm going to get back in the game. I want to have a voice of support for law enforcement. I want to mobilize all the other citizens in this country that feel the way I do, that love our police, appreciate and value them. So I started Citizens Behind the Badge. We're a 501c4 advocacy group. We lobby Congress for pro-law enforcement legislation. We get millions of citizens to send back surveys and declarations of support for their local police, and then we send them out to the sheriffs and chiefs around the country. We're doing whatever we can to counter the false narrative in the media that police are brutal racists. The facts totally debunk that idea. In fact, they tell us that only 1% of the time that police and citizens ever have any interaction is misconduct involved. 99% of the time, our cops are doing a great job, doing it right, doing it honorably.
Obviously, your mission is critical at this time.
Well, with the defund and defame the police movement, which started after George Floyd's death in 2020, we've got a public safety crisis on our hands. We have a police safety crisis on our hands. So it's absolutely essential. If we're ever going to get back to where we were pre-defund and defame the police, which was in 2020, when we had the lowest level of violence ever recorded in this country prior to 2020. Now, all of a sudden, the police are terrible. They need to be abolished. We need to blow them up, start all over again. Furthest thing from the truth. We have such a mess on our hands now because cities around this country have defunded police, because politicians and the media have defamed police. And now we got to get back to common sense, which says the reason we have had a safe society before 2020 is because we had more police doing a better job than ever before. And we've got to get our politicians to get back in step with that thinking.
You know, it's just a simple reality. I have Dr. Curry Myers, America's criminologist, on my radio show, and there are bad people. You know, there are bad people out there. There are predators out there. There are people that are driven to do things because they're addicted to drugs. You know, it's just reality. And to decide that you're going to side with them and not with the police is just mind-numbing to me. I don't understand how politicians can get there and how people can get there. It just blows my mind.
Well, we're bending over backwards for the criminals in this country and forgetting all about the victims of crime. I saw something yesterday where we have such a problem with shoplifting in this country. So a lot of politicians think the answer is let's lock up the products and the goods instead of locking up the criminals that are stealing the products and the goods. Makes no sense at all.
The consequence of that is, for example, New York City has experienced a 40% drop in retail tax revenue and restaurant tax revenue in the past 2 years. Well, that is a death spiral for any city because the tax revenue pays for services like fire, law enforcement, emergency, whatever. And so if you start losing that money and you can hire less of public services, then the public services devolve, get worse, which means the problems get worse. The crime gets worse. And then you just it goes until it's unlivable. And that's what's happening in major cities around the country, is that have defunded and defamed the police, is they're in a death spiral. And that's the only way to get out of it, is they're going to have to completely change their thinking. And I don't know if they're capable of it. All right. So you have a history with Maglite, correct? It goes back a number of years.
Well, Tony Maglica and the founder of Maglite, the owner of Maglite, Tony and I go way back. In fact, he was one of the top donors to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. Now, we're talking about 1991 when that memorial was dedicated, and Maglite was one of our top 2 or 3 sponsors of that memorial. We've continued that relationship over the last, 30 years now plus, and they became one of our top donors for the National Law Enforcement Museum. So they have an exhibit with their name on it. I'm very proud of that fact, that we're partnering with a company that's all about make it in the USA, make a great product. I happened to tour their headquarters before it even opened. Yeah, Tony and Maglica and Maglite, I should say, go way back. Proud to partner with them, and they're a huge partner to this day with the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, and I'm very proud of that fact.
So you are partnering with the Pedestrian Safety Institute and Maglite on Traffic Safety Awareness Month this year, which is always based around the deadliest days of the year, which is right around the 4th of July. You see a spike every year in pedestrian fatalities and traffic fatalities. Now, one of the things is the way that your organization is interested in this is there are a lot of police officers that die being struck by cars or in traffic accidents. And the vast majority of these things happen at night.
Well, you hit on a very important point. We broadcasted this fact years and years ago before anybody else was talking about it. But when we looked at our data, we realized, well, wait a minute, more cops are being killed in traffic-related incidents than are being killed by firearms. And nobody seems to be talking about that problem. What can we do to make it safer? And, struck by vehicles is one of the real dangers for law enforcement officers. Can you imagine out on a highway, cars zipping by 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, and you're out of your car doing a traffic stop or helping a stranded motorist, and your life is in danger. So especially at night, and I think about that, the flashlights that Maglite produces, very important tool for law enforcement, fluorescent vests, so they can be seen at night. Exactly. All of this will help save police lives. And then we have this other law that really came into vogue over the last decade, and that is called move over and slow down. Yeah. If you're a motorist on the highway, any roadway, and you see a police vehicle on the side of the road, you must slow down. That's the law. And if possible, move over a lane to give that officer an added margin of safety. This is helping to save police lives. But I'll tell you, Lou, over the last 10 years, ending, I think it was 2011 to 2020, 454 law enforcement officers were killed in traffic-related incidents. 116 of them were struck by vehicles. So this is a very dangerous situation for our officers.
Well, I'm glad to have you partner with us on this effort. It's a very necessary piece. It's a Traffic Safety Month, and that's coming up in the month of July, and always around the 4th of July weekend is when you're going to see a real spike almost every year, and it's called the deadliest days of the years for a reason. Traffic Safety Awareness Month. Glad to have you partnering with Maglite. All right, how do people reach out to your organization if they want to support you?
Go to our website. Yes, thank you. It's behindbadge.org. That's our website, behindbadge.org. You'll find out everything you need to know about our organization, get all the latest information and the truths about law enforcement, crime data, police data, heroes that are being honored, etc. And on there, you'll see our social media platforms that you can sign up to become a follower. And there's also a donate button. Like all nonprofits, we rely solely on the heart and the giving and care of private citizens in this country. So if you are so disposed, you support law enforcement, you want to support Citizens Behind the Badge, make a donation on our website.
Thank you very much, Craig Floyd, Citizens Behind the Badge. We are thrilled to have you here on the Maglite podcast. Obviously, very supportive of your organization and its mission. Thank you for being here and being part of Traffic Safety Awareness Month. I'm Lou
Thank
Desmond
you.
for the Maglite podcast. Until next time.